Thank you very much, everyone. Yes, I welcome everyone to the African Development Lecture Series going on here in Berlin, Germany. My lecture is on the topic, the challenge in transforming the African Union Agenda 2063 and the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals in the midst of global crisis. I think, as stated already, the African Union Agenda 2063 is very clear. That is, the AU leadership, their dedication to attain the Pan-African vision of an integrated, prosperous, and peaceful Africa, driven by its own citizens. Right. So my lecture is focusing on the funding component of this ambition. I think the implementation of Agenda 2063 and the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals in Africa would be through donor-funded programs, that is in the form of development aid and through humanitarian-based projects going on in the continent. And this is why I think that the African leadership should not underestimate the impact of global solidarity on the successful implementation of Agenda 2063 alongside the United Nations Development Goals. Unfortunately, the current global crisis, mainly COVID and the war in Europe, they are putting so much stress on global solidarity. Inflation is on the rise in almost every country. So nation states are struggling to stabilize things for their citizens. The worst is that we don't know how long it's going to take our global leaders to resolve the ongoing economics of sanctions, the ongoing economics of weapons. We don't know how long it's going to take our leaders to resolve these things, hopefully through diplomatic means. Dear friends, dear members of the diplomatic society from all over the world, we all know that when society comes under such a massive pressure, what happens is this: the hardest hit is always social ethics and moral values, right? Which are the two main pillars of solidarity, right? And I think the global COVID vaccine distribution process actually depicted this. So the African leadership disappointment in the global COVID vaccine distribution process should serve the leadership as a reminder that in Africa, it will take global solidarity to promote inclusive education. It will take global solidarity to promote inclusive public health. Without global solidarity, it may be almost impossible for anyone to effectively fight against poverty, fight against hunger, and climate change-related issues in the developing world. In other words, the African leadership should not underestimate the negative impact of the already sinking global solidarity on the successful implementation of Agenda 2063 in Africa for the African people. Having said this, I think there's hope. There's hope because all these things that are going on may affect global solidarity, all right, but may not stop the corporate world. It may not stop investors from investing in specific, safe geographical locations which have the right human capital. And I think this is where Africa may stand out, right? All that is going on, investors are asking themselves very difficult questions. For example, can we say that the African leadership, right, with all the lack of resources, can we say that the leadership contained and managed the COVID crisis better than their European counterparts? Can we say this? In recent years, we've been seeing quite a number of strategic representation of the African continent at very important global summits. And I think one of the very noticeable one was the just ended G7, which took place in Germany. Can we say that the developed world is beginning not to recognize, but to accept Africa as a strategic developmental partner and not always a recipient of aid? Right. So these are some of the difficult questions investors may be asking themselves, and I think at the right time they will have to go out there to look for the related difficult answers. And I'm very confident that no matter what, these difficult answers will point them to Africa as a safe continent which has the right human capital for them to put in their investment. Now, this is where I think our leadership need to act and act appropriately. I think our leadership needs to carefully but quickly update our facts so that we can give a new look to our policy framework. Right. If the African leadership could just revisit our development theories and the related definitions, then strategically we could update our facts and come out with compelling business concept, compelling development concept to attract investors. Right. Until we do this, there will be a challenge. However, if we have to do what I've just explained, then I think there are 4 steps that the leadership may want to take into consideration. 1, we need reliable data. We need evidence-based data in Africa so that we can make informed policy decisions. This is very important. The point number 2 is that we need to enhance our managerial skills and competencies. This, we definitely need to do that, and it should be an ongoing process. Otherwise, we will not be able to to identify planning level errors in our programmings and, effectively mitigate them. The third point is that there's a need for the African leadership to prioritize collaborative work. Collaboration and cooperation should be the way to go. That will not only that will not only help us create synergies, but it will also enhance transparency and accountability in our programming in Africa. The fourth point is this: we need comprehensive concept to justify our project's sustainability. Right. Dear friends and relations, if you look at all these 4 points that I've outlined, right, whether we are talking about engineering reliable data, enhancing managerial skills and competencies, strategizing collaborative networks and managing them, or working on project sustainability, I think 2 things are very important at each level. And these 2 things are the specific technical skills and good human relationships. Right. So, theoretically, concept-wise, if you ask me, I will tell the African leadership that for the African Union to successfully implement the UN-SDGs and Agenda 2063 in the midst of global crisis, the African leadership may want to prioritize strategic education. That is, education that will promote good intercultural relationships alongside revised development theories, right, linked to the UN SDGs and Agenda 2063. If we do this and get it right, what will happen will be this: we will put our continent in position, we will put our leadership in a position that they can effectively and meaningfully react to both internal and external crises. We need this as an empowerment to make Africa the Africa that we want. Dear friends, and people from the diplomatic society from all over the world, at this point, I want to know what you also think through your questions. Thank you very much. Yep. Okay, great. I think I've just been told by the moderators that in the next phase will be the questions and answers phase. So I'm looking forward to that. Thank you very much.